Hello. In May of this year, after Museveni's crackdown and murder of people, well, it spoiled his international image and he struggled to find allies that would approve him and that kind of stuff. Literally, I mean, to make it quick, he was really doing bad in public relations or PR. Now, there is a remedy for that, or there are companies in the world that do the job of sanitizing or cleaning up dictators' images. And they have found a very big market in Africa. And we are all aware that one of the biggest markets is Uganda. So Museveni hired the foreign firm, according to the Observer, called Mercury LLC. Now, Mercury is a British company, but it also has what do you call them? It has branches as well as in America. It does PR from 7 now. It's one of the most high-end lobbying firms in the world, whereby if you have committed even some of the worst atrocities, Mercury can help repaint that image and you get into the good books of the Americans as well as the British government. Now, when Museveni hired Mercury, Ugandans on Twitter went out there, protested against Mercury, and then Ugandans in the USA also found Mercury offices and went there in Washington and protested. Now, after the protest, according to the Foreign Lobby, one of the news agencies that covers lobbying firms in Washington as well as in the United Kingdom, they realized that the lady, one Deirdre Stash, who was in charge of the Ugandan desk, due to too much pressure and a lot of protests and what Ugandans were doing on Twitter as well as on ground, she threw in the towel and said, you know what, guys, I think I won't be handling Uganda. Uganda is something very hot. I don't want to touch that particular country. So some directors here in the UK took on the mantle to repaint Museveni's image. Now, Museveni pays around $120,000 per month for Mercury LLC to sanitize his image. Now, we understand that they have been they have been running the contract on, renewing the contract on a monthly basis. Now, the good thing is now that Ugandans in the UK gave Mercury LLC a visit. Now, if you go to this Twitter handle of Uganda is Bleeding, you will see that they went there, protested. It's not a very big space, so the number of people was limited, but so many people were there. Different people were coming and going in one way or the other. Now, they said, despite the weather, Ugandans in the UK took to the streets to protest against Mercury, a lobbyist firm on Jeremy Street, telling them to stop cleaning up Museveni's brutal regime in Uganda. Now, these are the Ugandans. They're very committed. They went, protested outside Mercury offices, just like our brothers and sisters in Washington did the same. Now, why is it very important for us to be protesting, or why is it very important for Ugandans out there to do such kind of things and and protest and go after these networks that Museveni has and connections? Well, I'll tell you a couple of things for those of you who have not been following politics. You see, Museveni's power, people in the diaspora, companies or these so-called PR firms, they are the ones that give Museveni the narrative. They're the ones that give Museveni what to do. They are the ones that tell Museveni that this is what the Americans want. This is what is on the table of the British. So if you do this, you'll get into their books. And that's how Museveni has literally managed to survive. People have come and shook him since the 1996 and tried to overthrow him. But most of those people, their campaigns and fights have been concentrated so much in Uganda. That's why they have been not so much successful. Now, with People Power and NUP, the people have changed the strategy, whereby they are now reaching out to connections and networks that Museveni has been having in the UK as well as in Washington, where he contacts these so-called PR firms, and then the PR firms, what they do for him, they make sure that He gets in the good books. For example, when he killed people in Kasese, he hired Mercury. When he was going through some bill, he went through Mercury. Whenever something really hard comes down on him and really the West is going to act, he always hires these lobbying firms. The other one is called Scribe Strategies. Now, you should understand, so many countries have lobbying firms, right? But Mercury, when Museveni hires Mercury, he hires it as his own personal. Most African dictators and leaders, when they hire lobbying firms, they hire them as personal lobbying firms to lobby for their own personal benefit, but not for the benefit of a particular state or a particular country, unfortunately. So that's why you see whenever he lobbies, he lobbied, and then most of these people, he has the contacts in AGOA, IMF, World Bank. He knows all these things. Even COVID, he knows what to do. Like let me tell you even one thing. You see, even the cabinet. Do you know why he elected so many women in the cabinet? It is because his advisors are telling him that, look here, if you put so many women in the cabinet, I'm not against having women in the cabinet. I am for having women in the cabinet. But it is all strategic to change the narrative, to control the narrative. But the good thing is that this is a fight between David and Goliath. Mercury, as a company, is not so good in terms of social media. We are the Davids, we Ugandans, whereas we would have been the Goliaths in real world. So we took on Mercury, they threw in the towel, and now Ugandans in London have taken them on once again. The pressure that comes on Twitter, as well as the pressure that is coming on ground, because these people thought that they can hide in some London offices and make phone calls and try to create and sanitize Museveni's image all over the world and no one will care. Well, that's not happening. That is not happening. And that is why you see most of the so-called local PR or local lobbying firms in Uganda, the likes of Andrew Mwenda, were complaining that why is Museveni spending 100 grand to pay these PR companies in the West, and yet me, I'm here, I can do that public relations for him. Museveni is not interested. Museveni thinks he's the wisest person in the country. So if you come out and say that, okay, I want to do PR for you, he's like, oh, no, I don't need you. He only listens to what the white man tells him, or the white people tell him. Talking about colonialism, or talking about neocolonialism, or talking about the West. He only listens to what these people tell him. Like the PR companies, they are the ones that strategize the budget. They are the ones that draft our budgets, Museveni's budget. They are the ones that draft Museveni's cabinet, that do this in the cabinet. They are the ones that like if you're talking about a real cabinet sitting and deciding, there are two cabinets that sit and decide. We have the deep state cabinet that involves Museveni and the first family, right? That is a tight-niche group of people. Now we also have a cabinet of international connections that Museveni has. One of those international connections is the people that were expelled by Idi Amin in the 1970 economic war. Some Indians. Museveni got in touch with them. These Indians had accumulated, had got power in the countries that they were resettled, that is to say in Canada, as well as the United Kingdom and some parts of America. So they got into the corridors of power, most of these people, and Museveni got in touch with them, told them, I'll give you your properties back as bait, but you have to help me out in the countries where you are stationed. And they're like, oh, that's a really good deal. And then those deals morphed into more and more deals in one way or the other. Now there are those people as well that do the international bit of things. So they have a lot of input. Now, what takes precedent, or where does Museveni get directions? Well, we all understand that the deep state is not all that smart, because without the international support, the deep state cannot survive. And without international support, Museveni has no effective succession plan. Now, can Museveni do without the deep state? I don't want to go into those semantics and, he can do without it for as long as he has international support. He can literally just wake up tomorrow and is like, oh, I've fired you all. But can he do without the international support? Absolutely not. Because if these guys who give him the money, who give them the funds and all this kind of stuff, the training, if they decided to pull out in one day, Museveni cannot be president even for that. The following day he would be out of power completely, and also. That's it. Now, that's the reason as to why Ugandans are going after these lobbying firms that are being paid around $100 grand in dollars per month just to advise Museveni, just to create a PR strategy, just to sanitize his crimes. So, we are going to be following this story, but this is really huge. This is really good that Ugandans have found these officers and they have gone towards they have gone to them, and we believe that these people will throw in the towel. Much they will either give up on the Ugandan issue, or they will just say, you know what, Uganda is becoming a big liability and our clients are running away because of Uganda, so let's just drop that weight. It's dead weight or excess baggage. Now the other issue is this: these lobbying firms are the ones responsible for looking for things to create narratives as well as diversions. They would find like artists who are struggling and tell them, oh, there is a deal, a dictator wants to sanitize his country. Can you please come and make a show, or you go and visit him? The Kanye Westies and all those kind of stuff. It is these lobbying firms that do that job. It's the role of those lobbying firms. And also the lobbying firms are supposed to be in the corridors of power in the respective countries to be aware of things that might be coming Museveni's way. Things like sanctions, they might be coming in Museveni's way. So Museveni has to be tipped off before they hit him while he's unaware. Things like donations and funds that might be withdrawn or might be delayed, you know, all those sorts of things are supposed to be given to Museveni by these lobbying firms. So that's their role, right? So their role is also to make sure that they reach out to international news agencies like CNN, Al Jazeera, you know, All Africa, and all these news agencies to either write articles or to get Ugandan writers, in Museveni's circle, to write these articles, and also to buy airtime for Museveni's cabal of people. For example, Mercury is the one that bought airtime on Voice of Africa. What is this? Voice of Africa, VOA, for $20,000 for Sam Kutesa to go and sanitize his image. That's what they do. So, with this protest in London, it is really something huge, and I believe if I know the weather was not that good, but if Ugandans we should, I think, organize another protest and make sure that we go back there in big numbers. Now that we know the offices, they will either, number one, leave those offices and look for new office space, or they will just have to drop the liability or the dead weight of Museveni. That's what we are telling them. That why are you taking Ugandan money? Why are you eating taxpayers' money while you're sanitizing Museveni's image? That's what we are saying. And trust me, when Ugandans find your address, like in terms of protest, because what they are doing anyway is legal, well, they are going to protest there day and night until Mercury drops the deal. And for Museveni, he will have to either pay a much higher price looking for a lobbying firm that is above Mercury, or find one of those struggling lobbying firms that would give him some of the worst advice. So kudos to brothers and sisters in the UK who have taken on the mantle to go and protest at Mercury offices. And please, whenever you are having such kind of arrangements, please try to also publicize them as much as you can, because the battle is now in public relations and Museveni is losing. That is why you see these protests will not be covered in Ugandan media. No, the protest at G7 summit was not covered in Ugandan media. Such protests we have protested in the UK, the US, but they do not cover them in Ugandan media. Why? It is because they are hitting Museveni hard. They are hitting him where it hurts. So that's why. Okay, brothers and sisters, thank you very much, and have a nice evening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.